of the. Anybody here go to GA in Pittsburgh? And somebody saw that, sorry, anybody participate in GA? Yeah, we got a few of you. So, for the rest of you may not know that our association is doing a deep dive into what we call the principles and purposes about who we are and how we are. And that has had me thinking more deeply about, what's our source? So the theme today is gratitude, a source of good. I could say gratitude, the source of all good. But I'm going to play around with this idea of gratitude and give you several stories and examples, and hopefully leave you here thinking maybe a little differently about gratitude. So let me tell you a few stories and kind of set the stage of my assumption that gratitude is the source of good. So, first off, I've got some really good examples of the work that I did as a chaplain for adults with developmental disabilities. I worked in one of New Jersey's institutions for 10 years. And as an interfaith chaplain, I did not teach doctrine. That I left to others that weren't chaplains. That was not one of my responsibilities. But one of the things I would do is I would have chaplain chats, which were half-hour sessions in small groups. And in these groups, I wanted to present to them something spiritual but not religious. So one source that I found was a website called spiritualityandpractice.com. It's got tons of stuff in it. And it gives and delineates 26 spiritual characteristics. So some of the examples are love and gratitude, which go across all faiths. So I could teach spiritual characteristics without teaching doctrine. Other examples are beauty, compassion, faith. They kind of did an ABC kind of thing. Transformation was another one. And some of the topics worked for my folks, and some of them were too complex for their understanding. Now, I had developed a practice of gratitude in my work with these adults, and I had done this in two different ways. Well, many ways, but two different ways I'm going to tell you about. First is I had a session, I would do sessions where we wrote thank you letters to people that did something nice for us that they could understand, right? Let's write a thank you note. Somebody did something nice for you. And what was contradictory to their culture was these adults had been trained to be receivers of care, receivers of everything they needed, and that they were trained to always be served. So, and the staff were the ones that were doing the serving. Unfortunately, during one time with one previous governor, the morale around the facility was very poor, and for lots of different reasons. And these letters that were received had an impact on morale. So just imagine for a second that you're having what I would call a yucky day. And in the business mail, you find a card that says, "Thank you for being nice to me today." Now, my heart would melt, and I would have quickly replaced that yucky feeling, at least with a smile. And I feel that the more letters that were being sent around the facility has the possibility of changing the morale. And the reason that I felt that is that we are all connected. We're all connected in that facility, and we're all connected in the universe. So spreading gratitude makes a positive difference. That's a small example. The other thing that I did one year is I put up a very big poster that had several categories on it on the one side. Someone was nice to me today. Someone gave me food. Someone gave me a drink. Someone forgave me. Someone helped me. Someone taught me something. And by this poster, there was a set of stickers, and the individuals were then instructed to put a sticker on the category that they had experienced that day. Now, many of them couldn't read, so they needed a staff person or another individual that could read that would go through that, and then they would put their stickers on. And some people would put up only one, and some would put up a lot. But this display had an impact on staff. They could see from this poster that the clients knew that the good things had been given to them. It was reversing that always being served and introducing gratitude. And the list was not material things like money, cigarettes, DVDs that they really would talk about and want. So I was teaching them how to be grateful and how to show gratitude around them, and to not always be asking, "Do you have something for me today?" Which was a frequent question that I would hear. In these waters of gratitude, I swim every day. Not only changing those individuals while I was working there, but also changing the system. But I want to consider a quote by the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. He wrote it in November 7th, 1957, at the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Montgomery, Alabama. And the whole piece was titled "Loving Your Enemies." And I will quasi-quote it, you all can look it up. But basically, only love will transform an enemy to a friend. And I don't agree with him. Now, and I'm not saying he's wrong, it's the word only. And I think gratitude has a huge ability to change enemies to friends. So, and I keep chewing on that. And if you look at the proposed Article 2, they've got love in the center. Now, I am not going to vote against it because they have love in the center. But I want to give us the ability to grow in our spiritual understanding and maybe look a little deeper, a little broader. So what might be the way to make transformation from hate to relatedness? I didn't say hate to love, I said hate to relatedness. What might change a system or an environment? You know, love and justice does have us linking arms with like-minded people in all kinds of protests. So I'm not against love and justice. So, okay, so we're gonna pivot. I've been preaching on growing souls and spiritual maturity for decades. And the Reverend Kendyl Gibbons has been working on spiritual characteristics for decades. Her original was 5 spiritual characteristics for spiritual maturity for UUs. Kendyl Gibbons is now out in Kansas City. Living in covenant, living in beauty, living with ambiguity, living in gratitude, and living fluently with metaphor. That's a lot. I taught a whole week course at Cersei, which is the Central East region. So a lot to go into. But living in gratitude was one of hers. Now she's expanded that, added a few more. And if you look up Kendyl Gibbons, you can find more from her. Or if you look at the Spirituality and Practice website, which aren't UU specific, but they have more too. Now, what's interesting is on Kendyl Gibbons' list for a spiritually mature person, love is not there. Covenant, beauty, ambiguity, gratitude, and metaphor. So let's consider that there's personal work that we all need to do on gratitude and acts of gratitude. I'm not saying that Kendall's right or wrong, but it is something to consider. Many people have spiritual practices that are of Eastern origin. Some have spiritual practices that they brought with them from their Christian or Jewish upbringing. Nothing's wrong with them. This is a list developed from a UU standpoint. Now, I'm going to do another little shift. In the spring of 2007, Reverend Galen Gingrich published an article in the UU World. He's the minister at All Souls of New York. He took the prime position after Forrest Church died, but he was there before then, so he's been there for decades. But this article was titled, "The Art of Faith, Gratitude Should Be the Center of UU Theology." He uses the word should. Many of us are like, ooh. But just another viewpoint, right? I'm kind of looking at different facets of gratitude, so thanks for bearing with me. So, I quote, "Why gratitude? It has to do with the role of religion and the nature of the universe. The role of religion," he continues, "in my view, is to help us find our place as human beings within this universe we call home. You may recall that the word religion does not mean to liberate or set free, but rather to bind together. Religion unites the purpose of our lives as human beings with the purpose that animates the universe. Religion unites the meaning of our lives as human beings with the meaning that pervades the universe. Religion unites the spirit of humanity with the spirit that keeps the stars shining, the planets spinning, and the flowers blooming in springtime. I believe that gratitude is the appropriate religious response to the nature of the universe. So Galen reasons through a process theology lens that all things are connected. And since our past, present, and future are all dependent on everything in the universe, and if we are in awe of that, then our response should be gratitude. So the work of sending thank you notes did have an impact. We're all products of some kind of system. And people were changed, transformed for the positive. Using myself as an example, I am the result of many connections and relationships that have happened to me and that are uniquely mine and create a unique me. I was born in Berlin, Germany, to an American GI and a young German girl. We moved to Southwest Missouri, where I grew up, attended high school, and went to college. I moved to New Jersey right after college. Those experiences, they're unique to me. Now, a little deeper. I would not be giving you this sermon if I hadn't had all those experiences that I had. And, for example, I've had 3 really important good friends of mine in high school. Sabina and I had been friends since the year that I spent going to school, high school in Berlin, and I was living with my grandparents. Beth and Bev were in the high school band with me. They both played clarinet and I played the saxophone. And as teen girls, we talked and talked and talked and talked. We'd be on the phone for hours, one-on-one. How we could possibly complain about kids in one. Okay, now that we're, a little older, we talk and talk and talk and talk. But some of it's reflecting on how those high school days had impacted our lives. And I once told them that they were my lifeline because there were times when I was really struggling those teen years. And they really helped me keep it together. So I posit that gratitude for me and for this sermon goes all the way back to my high school friends. Now, I am so grateful that they were in my life back then, and I'm also grateful that 2 of the 3 still are. I'm grateful for their friendship and their love, their endurance, telling it to me straight when I most needed that. And they are parts of who I am. Now, I'll make a big assumption here that you enjoy having me with you in worship. Some of you might remember me. I've been here many times, but it's been a while. And I know that I'm grateful for the experience of sharing with you and being with you. And since I'm so grateful the impact of Beth and Bev, of course Sabina too, it would and could be a logical connection that you would also be grateful for them. Now, let's just imagine for a minute. What if each of you wrote a letter to the 2 women that are still living, Beth and Bev, and saying that you are grateful for who they are and what they contributed to the world. Because I know I've made a contribution to the world. Now that might just be mind-blowing. And I'm not saying do it as a mental exercise, but think of how interesting life would be if we made those gratitude expressions to others. So starting a practice of gratitude will allow you to change the world because of our interrelatedness and our connectedness. It will reduce hate. The most hated enemy we could find one small thing to be grateful for and express that. And who knows what crack might open. So I charge you with expressing gratitude in the ways that work for you and creating cracks so those interconnections can be